Welcome to the Desire to Dream podcast. I'm your host, Lo Wilder. The vision of this podcast is to provide tools on how to become successful in your finances, business, leadership development, and much more. A little bit about me: I grew up in the hood, homeless at the age of 14. I made a choice not to become a product of my environment. And today, I am a successful businessman, community leader, and inspirational speaker. It is my desire to encourage and empower you to unlock your greatness. So tune in and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Desire to Dream podcast. I'm your host, Lo Wilder, and today I have a fellow Hamptonian brother of mine that grew up in the Minneapolis area, went to Hampton, and we matriculated there. We met in the dorms, and he's just doing phenomenal things, man. Dr. Bryce Ratliff, man, what's happening, bro?
I'm glad you're having me on your podcast. I think back to Holmes Hall and running into you and your crazy story, your testimony, essentially. So I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for having me.
Man, most definitely, man. You think about Holmes Hall, man, it was like, we had Brother T, man, and I was trying out that RA thing. I know you were doing the RA thing, and I was like, bro, I can't. It was too much, man. I'm in there cutting hair. Had the barbershop going, man, but we had the Bible study, man, and that was pretty tight, bringing that in. It was just like a real family-oriented dorm. Everyone pretty much was tight, man. So, we got to know one another and stay connected ever since, man. So how you been since Hampton, man? But before you actually, since Hampton, how did you end up at Hampton coming from Minnesota?
Man, such a crazy question. I think when I got to Hampton, everybody had the same reaction. Where the hell is Minneapolis? And I'm like, man,
right.
Canada. Some people call it the chef's hat, Minnesota, whatever. I had a cousin who was a senior at Hampton, or a junior rather, when I came for, I believe, high school day, sometime 2007. And I wanted to run track. Track was my thing, and I thought I'd be all world. Clearly, I'm a doctor now.
Right.
And I just love the campus. I do believe it was like a God incident. I remember running into people. I went to Howard, Hampton, Georgetown, and Notre Dame. And Notre Dame was a pristine campus, but I knew I didn't have a place there. My mother didn't like Georgetown because it had too many beer bottles on the rooftop. She said, "Not, absolutely not." And my parents didn't like the fact that Howard had kind of more of an open campus, and Hampton just seemed a little bit more like a gated community. And we just like what it stood for. It felt like home. So that's how I ended up there.
Man, that's the same with me. It's funny. I thought you were going to say I went to Hampton, Howard, and Morehouse, because I was like, whoa, hold up. We go on the same tour? I had the opportunity to check out Howard, and believe it or not, I actually wanted to go to Howard. That was really like my first choice when I was looking at HBCUs, but I'm definitely glad I went to Hampton. And man, but dude, Minnesota, right? Like, so I got to ask, because I used to watch it, and I went out there, went and saw the Giants Vikings Monday Night Football, beautiful city, and I was looking for the Juicy Lucy.
Oh, the Juicy Lucy, yes.
Yeah. Tell everybody about the Juicy Lucy, because I saw it on the Food Network, and I was looking for it, but it was too far from the stadium, man.
I know. I mean, you can get it in Minneapolis or St. Paul. Essentially, a Juicy Lucy is 2 patties, beef patties with cheese infused in the pocket in the middle, and the rest is history. It's God's work.
Man, that's awesome, bro. Yeah, so and that's awesome, man. And Hampton was a wonderful place to go to school for. Shout out to Hampton and all HBCUs, man. We definitely represent, although we are the real HU. So whoever's listening and went to Howard, the real HU, we in the house. And but all jokes aside, man, you left Hampton. What was the journey like after graduation? Did you go immediately into medical school, or when you were at Hampton, did you know like this was my next move? Because I didn't know you were going to go to medical school. I think you might have talked about it a little bit, but was that always something that was on the top of your mind?
I think medical school. So my mother always said it since I was 3, like, you're going to be a doctor. But did we have a clue what the journey would be like? I would say absolutely not. I went through a pathway program to Boston University, which was a great honor. Let me tell you, man, it was a wake-up call. It was, a rude awakening. And I think, what I would advise to people is take some time to like let it marinate, let your undergraduate experience marinate. Never rush anything. I think whenever you rush something, you're kind of doing a Faustian bargain. You're doing a deal with the devil because he's
Mm,
tricked you into believing that you need to do it here and now. And I think I've seen so many people take different paths into medicine that, I mean, spend time with your family, do things that are important, because ultimately that's stuff that time you can't get back. So while career is very important, I would just emphasize the importance of, I love spending time with my mom watching football. I remember in 2012 watching, the Super Bowl, the Ravens and the 49ers.
49ers, yeah.
Oh, we love that Super Bowl. And I mean, these are memories that, again, I'm happy that I took the time to just sit down with my family and love on them. And so it was a tough experience. I was able to get through. But I would advise, man, just take your time with grad school. Make sure that you have your study materials together, appropriate funds saved up, a car, those kind of things. And those things weren't all readily available. I'm a first generation doctor, so money's not just falling off trees for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you want to think about how much you're going to spend on what particular grad school, what area in the country you want to be. All these things factor into, how you're going to do. And so,
Word. And what about like preparation, man? Like, is this something, because we talk about mental toughness, but we also talk about preparation. So as you're preparing for something to embark in this journey in medical school, what was the preparation like?
I think so. We always hear these statistics about how poorly, African American students do on, entrance exams. It might be honestly, you need like a isolated 2 to 3 months really just to study or prep for that exam. And really just no distractions. All of us don't have generational wealth where we can just not work. But if you ever find a period or a time where you can do that, uh, do that.
Mm, right.
I mean, just to step away from everything, and it's worth the investment in the long run. And I think it's like financial literacy or something like that. It's like it's not, for lack of knowledge we perish, and so it is not there's no innate ignorance about us. We are just as capable as anybody else. But preparation, sitting down, and every doctor. I don't know too many people who don't use a Q bank.
Mm,
You're going to comb through thousands of questions. And so that repetition alone is going to push you into a different bracket of scores. And so,
and break that down a little bit because I'm picking up on that. You said a Q bank.
yeah, question bank. So
Question bank. Got you.
yeah,
Okay.
Q bank. I mean, for every board exam that I've taken 4. So you have the MCAT, which is the scores have changed since I've matriculated through medical school. I've taken step 1, 2, 3, and then my American Board of Family Medicine exam. And for every single one of them, I sit down with the Q bank and I annotate. So you get it wrong, you focus on what your weakness is, and so you kind of lull yourself into a false sense of security by focusing on what you're good at. And it feels good to your ego, but you're not making any headway in terms of improving for the exam. Get that Q bank.
Love it.
Yeah, before you count those Jordans.
Right. Now that's fire, man. And I think about preparing for your life, preparing for any goal, right? You may not want to go to medical school. You might want to start your own business and start to prepare those questions that you're going to need to answer. If you're starting a business, what's the problem you're going to solve? What is your product or your service going to provide to your customers, to your clients, and also have those questions already in mind because people are going to ask. I know a lot of people who they're like, man, I'm going to start this business. I'm like, cool. So what is it about? Who's your target audience? Who's your target, customer base? How are you going to go and generate leads? And they're like, I didn't think about that. Right. And so to your point, Q Bank really, question bank and start preparing for that, so that you're able to succeed. 95% of businesses fail. 95% of people who dream don't get to achieve their dreams. And it's because of the lack of preparation. So I love that, man. I love that. So you go on to medical school, you again, your first generation. What is it like? Because I remember I was embarking a higher learning education, and it was like some people, how many phone calls you get on like, hey, Dr. Bryce, hey, yo, cuz I got this thing growing on my foot. And you're like, bro, I'm in family practice. Like that's not something, you know. So you know, what is that? What is that lifestyle like now that you are a doctor and you've reached and achieved this goal? How many people were calling you in the process?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just in real time. Somebody will stop you, say, "I heard you're a doctor. What is this?"
Right.
I mean, breakfast now, but and I'll give you a real example. The summer before I even started medical school, I was in Racine, Wisconsin, with my mother and Miss Fletcher. She's not my biological grandmother, but she helped raise my mother and her daughter Nisi, who was my mother's childhood best friend. And Nisi, you know, kind of goes silent in the room, and we just then she's kind of like perseverating, which means her speech is getting repetitive, and she's foaming at the mouth. And lo and behold, in front of me, she's having a stroke and a heart attack at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I ran down the street. I mean, you would think it would be intuitive to just call 911. I'm like, I do what I usually do, ask my mom. But you know, yeah, I'm like, what do we do? And you know, I remember after EMS came, Miss Fletcher said, "Doc, I thought you knew what to do," and I'll never forget how bad I felt. You know, just not really knowing how to intervene. Now I know you can give 4-baby aspirin if you suspect somebody has a heart attack.
Mm,
Barring any aspirin allergy, and you know, obviously, I don't want to give errant, you know, medical information, but these are things that I do now, you know. So,
yeah.
uh, you know, to call EMS, you know, it's there's no burden in saying like there's nothing immediately that I can do in this space. This person needs to go to a hospital. And if you have a bee sting allergy, an EpiPen, or things like that, you know, and so it's becoming second nature. But yeah, that was my first brush with uh, some serious medicine and death. I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's wild, man. I got a allergy as well, and I'm forgetting my EpiPen every now and again, man. But you know, I just know like with being a doctor, it's like you see it in the movies where people are in an airplane and is there a doctor on the plane? You know, like didn't know if you had like one of them situations, but man, I'm glad everything had worked out on that. So you know, going more into it, man, with preparation, we talked about mindset. um what else is like you can share with individuals that are trying to achieve something at a higher level? Is there any times that you had doubt that this wasn't, I mean, you're talking about 3 years old, was there ever a time mentally where you're like, man, I'm not sure if I can do this? And if not, then how were you able to build that mental toughness?
Yeah, I think there are plenty of times I've had doubt on this journey. I think there's appropriate sharing and then there's oversharing. I mean, I've had a Black experience as an African American man in medicine, which can be challenging in its own right. And people implement doubts and they make you second guess just based off your skin color. So that's like, that's not even, I mean, if you're going, expect it, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So point, they're going to say things that are inappropriate to you that nobody else would experience. And you're going to have to learn how to mentally process. Sometimes that looks like a therapist. Sometimes it looks like family or a best friend, you know, finding the appropriate venue to kind of vent your frustrations. That's a real thing. But I mean, I have to give all glory to God, number one, but then my family has been my strongest support system. And just, you know, it's such an honor when people can see you through no matter what your bank account looks like or your situation looks like. And so shout out to my family for real.
Right. Man, that's dope, man. That's dope. The other thing, you know, speaking about finances, right? You know, medical school is not cheap. You know, it is a lot of money, and there's not a lot of scholarships and grants, you know, for those type of degrees, medical, law school, and things like that. Was there always a fear of how much it costs, or it didn't matter? Because I think a lot of people, and I wanted to bring this up, and then you could talk about it, you know, however deep you want, but I wanted to bring this up because I think a lot of people, you know, they don't move to that next step because of the cost, right? But what is the cost of you not doing it, right?
Yeah. And, you know, so I hate to sound capitalistic or like a salesman, but let me tell you something. I'm at Hampton because somebody afforded me an opportunity either through admissions or financial aid. I remember being in Wigwam, like, hey, Mr.
Right.
What are we gonna do? And he's like, I don't know, boy. You better, you know,
Better figure it out.
figure it out. I'm doing, you know, you
Right,
got,
right.
no, but you know, for me, it's I'm sitting here having this experience with somebody who's from Boston who went to law school in FAMU, who's now got his podcast because you're not just paying for school, you're paying for education for life.
Mhm.
You know, this model. And so everywhere I've been, being in Jersey, being in New York, when you're eating cuisine here, when you're trying this roti here, when I eat my Vietnamese here, it's all because I've been exposed. And so I don't think you can personally. My experience is very expensive, but I don't know if you could put a dollar amount on experience.
Mm.
So if that leads me into being a businessman, if now because on the week that I'm off as a hospitalist, I can do another venture here, and I can say, "Lo, I'm stopping by. I'll be in, in town."
I'm in Atlanta now.
Right. So
Yeah.
I can be in the A in the heartbeat because I have that experience, because I have that network. I can't really put a dollar amount on social wealth.
Right, right. Now that's dope, man, and that brings me to another point because exposure. We talk about that on the podcast as well. Having exposure. For me, if I wasn't exposed to the greater things, Hampton really opened my eyes, man. I just remember seeing people riding around in a 745 and Range Rovers, and I'm like, how they get to ride, like they're not drug dealers, and that was really my first time seeing black excellence displayed, because their parents paved the way and became first generation or second generation to go on and do something phenomenal, and then now their kids can live in this lifestyle. So exposure is major. I'll never forget one time going to dinner with Bill Cosby, and uh, for those that who may not know, I don't talk about it a lot on the podcast, but Dr. Bill Cosby definitely, shout outs to him for paying for my education at Hampton University. And I remember going to dinner with him, and my friends and I wanted to actually, do celebrate his birthday. So we were like, hey, we're going to pay for the dinner. And bro, the menus came out. They didn't have a price on the menu.
Yeah.
And we got like $20-$30 each, like looking
Yeah.
at each other. We're like, bro, I don't know how we're gonna pay for this meal. And Dr. C comes in and he's like, gentlemen, how you guys are doing? It's good to see you all. Don't worry about paying. That was a nice gesture, but Dr. Cosby's gonna pay for that. So then we started flipping past the appetizers, like, okay, cool. But he brought the chef out, and he was talking to the chef, and he says, the other night, what you made for my wife, the appetizers you made at our house, yeah, bring some of that out. And I was just looking at my boy, and I'm like, this dude had this chef at his house just the other
Yeah.
day, and we were ordering things that wasn't even on the menu. And then he was like, order whatever you want. That type of exposure really like showed me, like, man, there's levels, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
and I wanted to, it's a good point to or a good time to insert this piece too. I followed Dr. Eric Thomas and his group. He got Jamal King on there, and he talks about ordering from the left side of the menu. And he's like, order from the left side of the menu, not the right side. At first, I'm like, I'm not sure what that is. So what that basically means is if you go to a restaurant and it's nice, and let's say Dr. Bryce feeling, you know, nice and saying, let's go out to dinner, and you open up the menu. And if you're ordering your meal based off of the right side, that means you're only looking at the prices. And so you see the prices, and then the prices are going to dictate, what you're going to order. Like, it's not what you actually want, but it's based off of the price. And I think that right side of the menu thinking and that mentality, we shorten ourselves. So when you get that exposure, when you can order whatever you want, um, it's truly what you can do. You can have whatever you want, and that's what you did. You went out and went after your medical degree and became the doctor, breaking barriers, being the first in your family to do that. Now you have this exposure, and you're also sharing with others, man. So shout outs to you with that, man. And with that, are you mentoring individuals and helping them along the journey?
I think you do it indirectly. So when you're in residency, I mean, there are medical students that you work with. I'm gonna humble brag. I did win the Gold Humanist Society Award.
Let's go.
So that's like the highest honor in the sense of patient care and compassion, and then also how I treat the medical students. And so they voted for me, and it was a big W for me because usually, it's not like a huge raise, or it's not an academic award in the sense of like X's and O's of like, did I cure cancer? But it really, demonstrated to me that I won't be warped by the system. Like, I'm gonna continue to work no matter where I get. I'm going to be grounded, and I'm going to treat people with respect. And so for me, that's why it's the highest honor, because that's brag about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's dope.
I mean, we're all big dogs here, like in the sense that, when you were my OG at Hampton and you were cutting my hair, you were Cosby Scholar. I mean, I don't forget those days, especially the people who showed me love and respect. So
appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's always been love, man. I was, man, I made the most money cutting hair at that dorm too, bro. Like, but for those that don't know, I was nice with the Clippers. I had the little barbershop going, and shout outs to our old dorm director. His whole family was getting haircuts for me. He had like 8 kids up in there. So shout out to Brother P, man.
You said James Harden had no money.
Man, listen, bro. Hey, and then the RA game, right? Was making a little extra money there with Mr. O, man. He was, so shout out to Mr. O, man. But bro, I appreciate you coming on and sharing, man. Before we go, I always like to ask my audience, or ask my guests to share with the audience something that they can share that will help people take it to their dreams to the next level. Any piece of advice you want to share before you go?
Yeah, one that comes to mind. I was down on my luck, and I was in Brooklyn, just kind of in a funky season, and I started to go to A.R. Bernard's church, cultural center. A.R. Bernard, he's an intellectual, but he's a great pastor, and he always liked to describe. He said, if I'm describing God, he has 3 characteristics: love, life, and light. That always sticks out to me. So when you're walking in a room, you have to display the characteristics of God: love, life, and light. Are you illuminating somebody else's situation? Are you bringing life to their situation? And are you loving on them in a way that's going to help facilitate all 3 coming together? So
that's beautiful.
I love that.
Man, I love that too, man. I'm going to have to definitely write that down when I'm editing this podcast for sure. Hit me with it again. Love,
life,
and light. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Well, listen, I know you got places to be, things to do, man, and appreciate you coming on to the podcast, sharing your journey, but also sharing some nuggets that can help individuals take their dream to that next level and turn it into a reality, man. So appreciate you, bro, for being on, man, and God bless you and your journey and your family. And I wish you nothing but the best, bro.
Thank you. You as well, King, man. God bless.
God bless, bro. Peace.
Take care.